Coming up tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. and again on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. at the Desautels Concert Hall, the University of Manitoba's Chamber Opera Group will present the Canadian premiere of a rarely performed Handel opera. Arminio, inspired by the events of 9 AD, tells the story of the Germanic leader Arminius and his stunning defeat over the Roman forces under Publius Varus in the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. Packed with love triangles, twists, betrayals, and political intrigue, Handel's Arminio unfolds with all the drama of a television soap opera. Although seldom staged during Handel's lifetime, the opera is now recognized as one of his most overlooked masterpieces, and one that still resonates powerfully today. And joining me here in the Classic 107 studio to talk about the University of Manitoba's Chamber Opera's group's performance of Arminio, I am joined by Joanna Leptison, who plays the character of Arminio, and Haley Verbonek, who is the projectionist for the production. Hello to you both. Great to have you here.
Hi, great to be here.
Joanna, this opera, I was reading, it was performed 6 times during its run when Handel was alive. Mm-hmm. It was rarely performed, and it's only been sort of resurrected in the 20th century, especially with the development of performance practice. This is the Canadian premiere of the opera. Can you talk about a little bit about the learning process a bit? I mean, it's not like there's a lot of recordings that you could go off. How was learning this brand new opera to Canadians for you?
Absolutely, yeah. So when we received the score in the summer, my personal part was written in the alto clef in the standard score that we were given. And so I kind of sought out a Baron Writer score, which is, I guess, a little bit easier to read for singers, that translated it to my personal register as a contralto. Yeah. And it was definitely a challenge for me as a singer, starting off with the technical aspects, because I was looking at music that was written for an alto castrato, which means that it stays in a fairly small range as a role and really focuses on virtuosity, which was, for the person it was written for, actually, one review at the time said that Arminio was a pretty I think it was like boring actor, but had these amazing virtuosic technical skills. So there's a lot of coloratura that moves in a very small space, which has been a really big growing edge for me as I've explored the role. And then I know from my colleagues, particular challenges were around translation. Archaic Italian language is particularly challenging for young singers to translate, and there aren't a lot of resources for translation for this particular opera. Lots of kind of vague and very unspecific librettos and that kind of thing floating around. But I think that's been a really big learning curve for singers, figuring out what is this thing about, and how can we apply it in our modern staging, which I'm sure Haley will talk more about.
Mm-hmm. You play the title character, Arminio, and just to be clear, it was sung by a alto castrato voice, which we obviously don't have now. Can you talk about how your character relates to the other characters in the play? I mean, there's so much going on. So how does Arminio relate to Tulsnelda, Remise, etc., the different characters?
Yeah, this opera has quite the family tree. Tulsnelda is my wife in the opera. Mm-hmm. In our version, she's a lawyer. She's a strong and independent woman who I'm married to, who informs me. She receives word that we, the Germans, me and Tulsnelda, are German. Mm-hmm. I'm German. We both are. Apologies, man. I will tell you, this plot is thick and it's a lot to digest.
And for our listeners, I was saying off air, it took me about 3 times to read through the synopsis to understand what is sort of happening. Yeah,
absolutely. And you'll be receiving some thorough program notes if you come to the show. It's very informative, but definitely needs to be reread. So we're married. Sigismondo and Tulsnelda are brother and sister. And Sigismondo at the end gets married to Ramise, who is my sister. So there's two sets of siblings who married each other in this opera. Tusnelda and Sigismondo, the siblings, Tusnelda is my wife, their dad is Segeste, who is German, but has betrayed the Germans for the Italians. I think that role in particular speaks a lot to a lot of the kind of, I guess I might even say, algorithms that affect people's political ideologies, that shock their family and friends, that shift things right now in so many ways through social media, etc. So this character kind of represents a large shift such as that. And at the beginning of the opera, I find out that he's betrayed us and his own daughter, who's married to me. So that's a large aspect of the opera. Varo is an Italian kind of captain type general who has been kind of giving Segeste instructions for this betrayal. And so the opera follows that. And then Varo has an assistant, Tullio, who helps him get things done in terms of the arrest of me, which happens right off the top of the opera. It's a really unique setting of an opera because it starts with a duet, and it starts with the kind of the biggest action in the whole thing is right off the top, which is kind of unusual for Baroque opera, and makes it really an exciting start, I think, and it really grabs the audience.
Yeah, and then the characters sort of go with each other and try to finagle Arminio's freedom.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm in prison for a large chunk of it, and then I'm freed at the end.
It's a really fascinating story. My understanding is that the war between the Germanic peoples and the Romans, it's a driving force very clearly in the opera. But Handel centers a lot of the action around the relationships and betrayal of the characters, as we've been talking about. Varro is having a love interest with Tusnelda. Sigismundo, whose name I think I'm pronouncing wrong, is in love with Ramise. Despite the fact that Segeste has helped the Romans capture your character Arminio, would you say the opera is more character or historically circumstance-driven? Or both?
I would say that it is more character-driven in the setting that we're doing. I think it's a really interesting and historically informed piece that we're doing. However, we're setting it kind of in modern times with, we have some kind of obvious imagery, an Italian flag, and Haley will talk more about the imagery, but we've kind of left it to be a little bit of a neutral canvas for to apply to whatever you wish that is going on right now. With that being said, I think that the characters, particularly the kind of maybe a little bit of turmoil of Segeste and kind of his sudden betrayal into this kind of brainwashing thing that happens for him is really central to his character. And Sigismondo, who is not involved in the army at all, is a botanist, a pacifist, doesn't want anything to do with guns or anything like that, is actually the one who ends up freeing Arminio and almost gets killed by his own father, Segeste, at the end, but then you'll find out what happens, I suppose. I'll leave the rest secret. But one thing to note about Baroque opera is that it's written so that all of the action happens off stage and you discuss it on stage. And I know that's not a great selling point for an audience, but we've added in lots of action, but it prioritizes kind of the effects on the characters in Baroque opera rather than the action itself, which is implied and sometimes shown, depending. But that's an important aspect of Baroque performance.
Yeah, one of the things about the opera, as we've been saying, is it really pertains to any time period. I saw a production on YouTube that was done in like a French Rococo style, the one that Max Emanuel Cencic staged. Can you both talk about that a little bit more? How is the opera shown in today's terms? What do you do as a projectionist, Haley?
Sure, yeah. So in early conversations with myself and Catherine, the director, she had wanted to stage it sort of modern, but vague modern. Like it's not a specific year. But people are in recognizable fatigues, and it's office buildings with cabinets, so it could have taken place any time in the last, I'd say, 80 years. There's not anything incredibly 2025 modern. There's no one on a smartphone. But it's to give it a slight timeless feel, because if it's set in a historic period, we kind of place it in that period. But if you have this vague modern setting, it for the audience you don't have to focus on it as a past event. It can be something present, something that happened anytime, something that will happen. So it's given a bit of freedom in that. And the opening, during the ouverture, we have it's 127 image sequence that goes through art and photography of war, from cave paintings to, I think the latest we go is images from a rebellion in 2016. So we start the show with a history of human war, and then we go into this kind of liminal conflict.
But I also understand that there's some art apparently that's going to be projected during the production as well.
Yes, I'm in the MFA program, and I do professionally work as a video and lighting designer, mainly for theater, but not that opera isn't theater, but mainly for straight theater. But I do love opera. This is my first time getting to work on an opera. It's amazing. But I illustrate and animate a lot of my own content, so we can get around any copyright issues, because only I can sue me. But yes, so most of the play takes place in the same location. So we have it's a field that elements get added and taken away from, and it shifts temporally. So there's sunrises, sunsets, different times of day. But other than two moments, I believe, I digitally painted all of the projected content.
And because it's at the new Desautels Concert Hall, apparently they've got a phenomenal projection system. Do you want to talk about that system a bit?
It's apparently new. It was just donated by a sponsor who I've not been given the name of, but thank you to whoever that was. It's a 20K Epson projector, which, if anybody knows projectors, that is very powerful. A big issue always in plays with projection is there's a fight between the lights and the projection, because stage lighting will wash out the projection, but no stage lighting, you can't see the actors. It's always a discussion between your projection designer and your lighting designer. Sometimes on both of them, and it's an internal struggle. But with a 20K projector, it's not as much of an issue. That's basically 20,000 lumens. It's very, very bright. I think actually we've had to dim it down to 18K because it was overpowering the lights. So it just relieves that burden of having to choose at any moment, do we see everybody's faces or do we see the projection? And because this opera, and I think it's an overall trend in opera where you have projection, there's not too many quick cues. Things are very flowing. So we can have moments where the lights shift, but the projection doesn't change. So at the beginning of the scene, the lights might be dimmer. People can see the backdrop, kind of get familiar with the scene, and then they can, when the lights come up later, the projection hasn't changed. So people have already know it's there, even if it's being washed out a little bit.
And Joanna, for you as a singer, how does the projection affect mood on stage?
Yeah, you know what? fortunately, it's such a great projector that we aren't, blinded by any lights or anything like that in that sense. So we actually don't really see it, except when we are off stage and we go to kind of see how things are sounding and looking. And it's a delightful surprise to see these gorgeous projections. They really are really stunning, definitely worth coming to see. And every year, it's the second year of our program using that space for this. There's new lighting that's been added, and so we're really grateful as students to be able to witness this development of this incredible concert space.
Mm-hmm. One of the other things about the production that I find is so excellent is that aside from the fabulous singing, the singers are mostly, my understanding, mostly graduate students.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be accompanied by a chamber orchestra made up of students from the Desautels Faculty of Music. Handel did such amazing word painting for singers, and his instrumental music is very often very descriptive as well. What's it like for you as a singer to be performing with this chamber ensemble?
Yeah, it's such a privilege to be able to have a chamber ensemble of fellow learners, of students, because led by our fearless leader, Mel Braun, who takes all of our singing requests in stride as we figure out how to navigate these challenging coloratura passages and cadenzas and all of those things. The ensemble has been fantastic. They've been, unlike a typical rehearsal process, to my understanding at least, you would add in the orchestra, the tech week, you have your Sitzprobe, and then you go from there, but they've been really integrated into the rehearsal process to learn alongside us, and they are going to be in the pit. So that's been a really interesting learning curve as well for us as performers to have such a small group in the pit below us. But they've taken it all in stride, and the music really comes to life with the orchestra. It just can't quite be replicated. Some of the more exciting, visceral arias, particularly just having strings and woodwinds really amps it up.
Absolutely. Haley and Joanna, this has been really great. I'm going to wrap up the conversation by asking what you hope audiences are going to take away from Arminio's performances. Joanna, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I hope that audiences feel confronted a little bit. I hope it makes people a little bit uncomfortable. I will say we are using guns on stage. They're not real, of course, but that is something for people to know.
Instead of swords, yeah.
Yes, but it definitely adds a modern touch, and I think being confronted with that and witnessing that and figuring out who we think of as heroes and who we don't, and I just hope that people can consider their own feelings about the things in the world and what they're saying and who they're listening to. I truly hope that, and but all I can hope is that it leaves an impression, starts a conversation. Yeah.
Haley, how about you?
Getting a little pretentious MFA student here, but I never want to dictate what people take away or experience during work. My main goal is that that something is taken away. For me, the worst thing entertainment can be is boring. Even, and so I hope they see or they respond to anything from the swings we've taken. Because I think there's been some bold choices that are going to hit differently with different people. And yes, I hope everybody just has the time to take in what they'd like and think on what they might not.
Haley and Joanna, this has been really terrific having you both here today. I hope the performances of Handel's Arminio go super well tomorrow evening and Saturday afternoon. I wish you all the success in the world and a big toy to the both of you. Thanks so much for taking the time to stop by our Classic 107 studio and talk to me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For our Classic 107 listeners, the University of Manitoba's Chamber Opera Group's performance of Handel's Arminio tomorrow night takes place at 7:30 and on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Both performances take place at the University of Manitoba's Desautels Concert Hall. For more details, go to their ShowPass page at showpass.com or go to classic107.com. I've embedded a direct link to the show page in the article about the performances that you can find up there now. Joanna and Haley, thanks again.
Thank you.